Well, when it comes to Epic Universe news, it's been pretty quiet from Universal for the past month or so, but they did just release a new episode on their Discover Universal podcast where they are going into more details about the Helios Grand Hotel. And if you're unfamiliar, Universal has a podcast, and what they've been doing up until, the past month or so is they've been having people that worked on or are currently working on elements of Epic Universe come onto their podcast and talk about it in more depth, answer some questions, and reveal some things that they haven't talked about yet before. So, on top of the videos that Universal has released, they've been doing these podcast episodes, which I have enjoyed. And it's nice to hear from the people that have worked on it and what their thinking is behind it and some of the, creativity and the inspiration for a lot of these things. So, I figure let's go through this episode here, watch it, and then get some thoughts together. So, that's what we're going to do.
Jess, Russ, thank you so much for coming back and joining us for another episode. This one is very exciting. We are super stoked to dive into the details here. But first, can you remind us who you both are? How long have you been with the company? Tell us a little bit about yourselves.
So my name's Russ Dagan. I'm Senior Vice President of Resort Development. I've been with Universal for in excess of 20 years, doing predominantly hotel work.
Awesome.
And I'm Jessica Iaconis. I'm Assistant Director of Facility Design for the hotel team, and I've been at the park for 13 years.
All right, so we're talking about the Universal Helios Grand Hotel, right? Can you tell us about the backstory about this hotel, and more importantly, how does it relate to Epic Universe?
Yeah, so in the beginning, we really did work very closely with the Celestial Park team. So Celestial Park is kind of that central area of Epic Universe.
Yeah.
And we kind of considered ourselves an extension of that story, right? So we're a different book in the same series, if you will. Mm-hmm. So when you come through our doors, you will still feel the same kind of awe-inspiring and celestial-inspired.
I would just say, if you've ever been to the Riviera at Disney World, this lobby looks very, very similar. But I do, again, I love the look of this, like the looking out, like from the lobby into the park. I mean, even this looks awesome, but I imagine in real life it'll look even better. But it's very reminiscent of how that lobby is, which I do like.
Feeling that you get when you are in Celestial Universe or Celestial Park. But take it up a notch and add a little resort feel to it.
Yeah. Well, when we got to walk the property, it really did feel like you took it up a notch. Like I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. So both spaces, both Celestial Park and the hotel are really this kind of juxtaposition of the celestial and the terrestrial, right? So you've kind of got the gardens coming in. We'll have some beautiful bougainvillea. Ours is a little.
That looks like new concept art. I think the other concept art they showed before also was new. But that looks so you can see the pool at night lit up there. I don't think I've ever seen any concept art of it at night, so I like this.
Kind of Mediterranean inspired. Mm-hmm. And then you'll also have these like beautiful star patterns and, just kind of hidden gems like that throughout.
Yeah.
But it really all works together. I mean, that's one thing that's absolutely amazing to me is Celestial Park has these kind of warm temperatures to cool temperatures, and the hotel ties right into that. The color schemes, the imagery, and when we shared stuff from team to team, so that there was a seamless experience between the park and the hotel here.
Yeah, that is a little bit of an Easter egg. If you look like at the hardscape and kind of all the colors in Celestial Park, they do go cool at the entry to warm, and then when you get to the back of the park, you're at Helios, god of the sun, as warm as it gets, right? And so that's why
cool.
all that gold comes out at the back of the park.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a cool aspect. I do like, hearing them talk more and more that I like how the little details that they do with this. And again, I mean, these are things that I would say what the Disney parks used to do fantastically, which, we've done behind the scenes tours at Disney, and like the detail that they would put into things that you never really would even pick up on, like trash cans and things like that. Now, I think as time has gone on, Disney hasn't done that as well, as I don't think they've cared as much. But when it comes to Universal, it seems that they're going back to a lot of these things that I think are, again, they're little things, but they're things that create such a cool environment that you may not even pick up on. You're not going to walk through and just be like, oh, I did notice it got warmer. But I love the fact that the thought was put into it, and it's something they put into the park and the hotel.
Well, that's a story if I ever heard one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. And was that from its inception? From the very get-go, you were like, okay, we got to make this thing expand almost like Helios.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, And there's a reason that this is so closely tied to Celestial. Talk about that too, just the proximity and how close these guests are going to be to Epic Universe.
We have an interior security lobby, so you would go through the turnstiles and the X-ray machine just like you would at the front of our park.
Yeah.
But you kind of do that inside our building. You step out the back door and you're there.
Before your hair.
Okay. So I figured this would be the case, but they talked about that you have direct access to the park from the hotel, and obviously you're going to have some sort of security, element to that. So it seems there's going to be an area inside of the hotel for that. But I would assume it goes pretty quickly. If you now going through regular City Walk, like the main area there can get backed up, but other elements, like if you've ever stayed Hard Rock and Hotel and all those around Universal, when you get on the boats, like those security things go pretty quickly. So obviously I'm sure it could get backed up, but you will go through security in the lobby there.
Hair's even dry.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
downstairs and in the park. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges with the design of our parks is we know that virtually everyone's waking at the same time, getting dressed at the same time, trying to eat in a hurry and get to the park. I mean, that's usually the model. I would say with this property in particular, there's a little less pressure to do that. You could stop by your room halfway through the day and take a break. You could use this hotel differently than you do almost any other hotel.
Right.
It's pretty amazing.
That is a good point, and that's having an in-park hotel like that. And I think obviously they haven't released pricing yet, but this hotel is not going to be cheap. But the fact that if you're staying here, obviously going to Epic Universe, I mean, at any point in time, you could just go back to your room, hang out, and come back in, and you're talking, minutes of doing that. Versus, you can still do those if you're staying at other Universal properties, but you'd have to, take a bus, go over here. So the fact that it's in the park like that. I've never experienced a hotel like that, but I can just imagine the benefit of just being able to, go grab something, go back. Like it would change your park day in terms of you wouldn't have to be so tied to the theme park. Wouldn't be such an issue if you decided to leave and come back or something like that, or go swim midday. Like there's a lot of advantages to how this hotel and the park are being set up.
And then the other, I mean, look, we're here to talk about the hotel. I understand that, but we've got an amenity out the back door that is a theme park. And you think of any great resort hotel, there's always some amazing amenity. Usually it's an ocean or some natural experience.
Golf course.
Yeah, we created our own amazing amenity that drives everything here.
It's just a theme park.
Yeah,
No big deal.
No biggie.
Yeah, we have the lobby, we have the food, and then an entire theme park. No big deal.
Yeah.
And the way we interact with the theme park as well. The music that's playing in the park will be playing in our lobbies, so that there's that seamless experience as you walk out the back door. The nighttime.
The music is cool. I do like that aspect. I've actually wondered if they're, they did say in a previous video that they have like an original soundtrack for the entire park. So I do like the idea that in the hotel and in the park, they're playing the same music, which is a small thing, but I think that's a cool thing.
Or the nighttime lagoon show that we've got in the park will be visible, obviously, from the hotel, but audibly you'll be able to hear it in your room through your television, or at the rooftop bar, you'll be able to see this as well.
That's the first time I've heard them mention the nighttime show. So it's been, if you look at the concept art and some of the stuff they've released, and obviously if you look at the construction behind the hotel, there is a peninsula there where they're going to shoot off fireworks, but he said a nighttime lagoon show. I don't know. He may be that. I know the lagoon show on the studio side was sensational. That's a lagoon show because it takes place like in a body of water there. He may have used the wrong phrasing there, but I do believe this is involving the fountain and obviously some sort of show. But the fact that they have the same, music and things playing inside the hotel at the same time of the show, and obviously if you're at the rooftop bar, you can be able to see it. So this is, as far as I know, the first time I've ever heard them say something specifically about the nighttime show. So I don't know if they'll go into more details, but I do like the idea that that is going to be something, and a lot of people had questions about that, and I think Universal's missed that for a long time. It's like a nightly show, kind of like a Happily Ever After over at Disney World. It seems like they, this is a little indication that it's something they're going to do.
Oh, and the views from your room, I mean, half the rooms overlook the park, and it's absolutely amazing what you see. And even every level of the hotel, you've got a compelling view. Yeah. We've obviously been in it a number of times, and
yeah. Jessica took us up there. We got to see it from a room perspective and from the dining perspective. And I would say, out of all the things that we got shown, the view is probably
That's pretty awesome to be able to see all that from your room.
Probably the most important thing. That was the thing
Stunning,
that I
yeah.
was able to think about for the rest of the day was I can't believe I'm able to see that much
I think
land.
you forget where you are. You're just so
Yeah.
immersed in the story. You're part of it. You're part of Epic Universe. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, proximity is obviously one of the amenities that we're most excited about, but there's other amazing amenities here too as well. So tell us about pool, what are some of those other experiences guests can have at the resort?
So one of the things I'm most excited about is the pool at this hotel because, we mentioned the park, but there is an escape pool. It's an oasis in and of itself. It's an opportunity to for a little bit of downtime. And you again, just like the hotel where you feel like you're in another world, that pool is yet another place where you feel, okay, I could be anywhere in the world right now. And it's a lush tropical experience. The pool bar. It's a really, really nice bar. We no corners cut on this. It's absolutely amazing what we did there.
I think one of the most striking things about the building right now are the domes that are on top.
Yeah.
And we've got a dome on the pool bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember from what
To me, what I've seen, the pool looks more like a Vegas style pool. Now, one thing it is missing, if you look at the other premier hotels, it doesn't seem like it's going to have a slide, which, I mean, it's not a big deal. This is much more of a leisurely pool, it seems, but that is one thing that the other premier, hotels do have. And really, most of Universal's hotels, even outside of the premier hotels, have a slide and stuff for kids. And I mean, even adults if they want to, but I don't think this one is going to have that.
one of the views that you showed as well, you're able to, I think it was from the bar, you can see the entryway to the park as well.
Yeah.
Because like you were saying, like everything aligns or something like that. Can you explain?
Absolutely,
more of
yeah.
that?
So at our rooftop bar, which again is another amazing experience, definitely going to be the place to go
Yes.
at this resort.
Wait.
So
Pause. You did not show us that. There's a rooftop bar?
yeah. You went to the rooftop bar. This is what you're talking
There's
about.
too much. There was too much to see. We're just overwhelmed with
this is what we're talking.
How big is this place?
It's big. No, this is what you're referencing. So at on the rooftop, there was a bar, and we were looking straight through. We have a cartouche on the outside of our building that
Yeah.
kind of lights up at night. Looks like a kind of a big celestial clock, and that lines up directly on access with the Kronos Gate, which is the entry to the park. So, it's everything is directly on access. You have the lagoons in Celestial Park and everything.
And the lagoons run the whole axis of the park as well. So
Yeah.
the lagoons start with a waterfall at the hotel and go all the way up to essentially to the Kronos, just shy of the Kronos. There's a waterway that runs that whole way, as well as
Okay, maybe he was talking about lagoons being the water features that are in the front of the park and not the fountain show. I know they are going to have in Celestial Park, there is a nighttime I guess you would just say ceremony. Every time it, gets to dusk, there's something that's going to happen in the park when that, that takes place. That could involve the lagoons, I suppose, from what he's saying.
a fountain show that's on that entire axis as well. It culminates right in front of the hotel with a big fountain show, but it actually runs the entire length of the park, and those fountains will play off each other at different times during the day. Yeah.
Okay, so the fountains and all the lagoons will do stuff during the day. That's cool.
Oh my goodness.
And you'll look out your window and watch it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's that table right there in front of the cartouche that's where I'm going to be
Yeah.
all the time. Every single night, that's where you'll find me.
Yeah, we do have dining seating up there. We also have a social gathering space at the rooftop, so some special functions can happen up there. It's definitely a great amenity to have overlooking the entire park.
Yeah.
I do wonder if access to that bar is just going to be for guests only, or if it's going to be sort of like walk up and put your name up there. Because I would imagine if everybody can go into this, it's going to be a very, very difficult place to get, almost like Trader Sam's over at the Polynesian at Disney, where you got to get there really early to put your name in. But I would almost imagine this is going to be for guests only. But if not, I would love to go up here, but I just don't know.
And how many designs would you say you go through until you get there? Like, I got to ask.
Well, I don't know that we've ever finished one. So.
There's at least
no.
one throwaway.
Yeah. No, we've had a lot of fun with this over the years. This property as well. We've had a lot of fun interpreting what this would be. How do the gods and goddesses present themselves in the hotel? How does that translate into the imagery and the artwork that we create? The color palette, absolutely everything. It touches it all, but it's not a linear process. I'll tell you that. We'll get to the point where. I mean, it's like writing a book, and it probably looks its worst right before it gets finished,
Sure.
and that's the same with this. There's a point where you're like, okay, well, we're almost done. let's throw it away and see what else we can come up with.
Right.
I think that that's what we do so well at Universal is creating these themed environments, right? And even without the IP that a lot of our attractions have, we're still able to kind of bring that into these hotel designs and just create this whole immersive experience with everyone's input and, kind of everyone's expertise. We kind of get to this amazing process or project end where we've started with just kind of this design concept. Right. But the story kind of writes itself as you go. And then you end up at the end like, okay, it all came together.
Yeah.
I will say that, and it's not just the hotel team here, but it's the attraction team and resort development and placemaking, all our different groups within creative. If there's one thing that I think we do better than anyone, it's putting the guest first.
Having been around Disney World a long time, well, I shouldn't say a long time, 7-8 years for sure, we've been doing our podcast, and having, been around Universal, going a lot more in the past 5-6 years. I agree with that. Universal does they do a very good job of, especially when it comes to like APs, of like really trying to get guest feedback. And I like the idea. I mean, Mark Woodbury, who's the head of basically the parks, but he used to be part of the creative team. I mean, they always talk about guest experience first. And I do feel like that is something that they do very well, which I think is a huge asset to them, in this current phase of Universal, as they're really getting aggressive and growing and really, trying to go after, I guess you would say like the Orlando theme park crown or market. So I think this is something that is, I love to hear that, because I think that's a really important thing.
Everything we do is through the eyes of the guests. So how do we create this compelling experience? What's the most compelling experience we can create in every instance?
Are you guys ever going to, I would assume you all are going to eventually stay at this place. You have to stay in your own creation eventually. And is there anything specific that you guys are most excited about ever for this project?
Oh, gosh.
I want to hear your answer.
Whether we've talked about it or not, whether it could be something that we haven't talked about, something that we've talked about plenty. I'm just really curious as to what you're the most excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely will stay here. It might only be once.
Or twice.
Once or twice. I'll get the best room one time and then, no, I do actually love staying at our resorts. My family loves doing that. We try and do it often as a little staycation, but, and then especially your proximity to the park. I think, honestly, just for me personally, my favorite part is seeing all the little details come together in the end, right? Like stuff that maybe our guests wouldn't notice or, other people wouldn't notice, but we know the blood, sweat, and tears that we've put into it. And so seeing it all come together and seeing the guest walk in and, kind of experience, I don't know. I've seen that so many times where once, like when the guests enter, we kind of like hide in the corner. Yeah. Sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Just to watch the reaction. Let's see if they did what we did.
Exactly. On like check-in day, the very first check-in day, we kind of hide in the corner and like, okay. And, people come in and ooh and ah. And
it's like you get to see it again for the first time through someone else's eyes.
I mean, it changes our perspective because we've looked at it every day over and over again. And we've meticulously, looked at every detail, but then to see it all come together.
Yeah.
I've literally done that same thing. Every one of our properties, I've done that where you want to experience it through the guest's eyes. So sitting back and watching that happen, getting to understand or appreciate what the guests notice, what they don't, what things, and some of them are things that we really, really, ran ourselves just, ragged on to make sure we deliver details, and then to see it's appreciated, that's fantastic. There's other things where it's almost a sidebar conversation, like, hey, what if we do this? Yeah, go ahead and do it. And then you find out like they're really paying attention to that. Like it's kind of cool to see what the guests focus on and what they really pay attention to. So that's been a lot of fun. I would say too that at some point every one of these projects there is a job aspect to it where you're like, oh boy, I have to, I'm working on this. There's a part of it. So there's always at least a couple months in every project that we work on where my only goal is like, I want to see the bar. I really want to, I just want to have one drink at this bar. I think the Rooftop bar here is going to be really compelling, as well as the one adjacent to the 3-meal restaurant.
Yes. Yeah.
The lobby bar, yep.
Absolutely. Well, tell us about the kids' suites. I mean, that's, the resort as a whole isn't the only tie-in to just Celestial. There's also another tie-in there as well. So tell us a little bit about that and how adults can kind of, encompass that with their stay as well.
Yeah. So we have 14 special rooms that are our kid suites. So similar to how we have Minion suites.
That's not many. I am curious how much these are going to cost, but they, from what I've seen of what she's about to talk about, they do seem pretty cool though.
At Portofino, at this resort, we will have How to Train Your Dragon suites.
Let's go.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
I do love how those look.
really
Good choice.
cool.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Very
Okay.
cool. So the majority of the suite, so the parents' sleeping quarters and the living room, all look like a normal suite, but then there's behind a special door, there's like this getaway for kids. So they'll be able to go in, experience, there's 2 twin beds in there, and there's maybe some dragon houses in there, maybe some dragons flying around.
Dragons flying around. Okay.
So they'll get to kind of immerse themselves in that dragon experience. So it'll be a lot of fun.
That's really, really
oh my
cool.
goodness.
Yeah.
I know, so cool for them to stay there and then walk out into the park that
Yeah.
day and experience that story
Oh, yeah,
continued.
yeah.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
What about transportation? So you mentioned that we can just walk right into Epic, but we have 3 other parks here at Universal Orlando Resort. So how do we get
They have 2. They Universal, and I will agree that Volcano Bay is a fantastic water park, but they consider Volcano Bay a theme park. So to them, they'll say this is their 4th park. But I mean, I do think there's a distinction between water parks and theme parks. It's a very well themed water park, but it's not a theme park. But that's where they're saying 3. I think some people may be confused by where she's saying that.
get to those parks as well?
So bus transportation, complimentary bus transportation between the parks, and you know, that was one of our biggest goals early on. This is about creating one destination, and we've clearly done that.
Yeah.
So, tell us about the.
I mean, not a lot there, he said, but you know, the road construction around Epic Universe is going to be a big aspect to that. They have the center lane for dedicated Universal buses in that area, and they should now. From another video we did, they should be finishing up the work on the road project for all, you know, helping the traffic relief in that area. Should be done by the end of the year, is what they said. So the park opening is not going to be contingent upon the road work being done, which is good. So he didn't really obviously go into that too much, but you will have dedicated bus lanes. So ideally, the thinking is that it's a very consistent time that it'll take to and from, you know, Universal Studios Islands of Adventure over to Epic Universe. And because if you've ever been in this area where Epic Universe is, that was one of my first worries of like, man, traffic's gonna be insane here. But with the road work they're doing, it's supposed to help with that, especially with the Universal buses.
Food. It's time. You know, everyone wants to know. Tell us about the food.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, this is kind of a Mediterranean-inspired hotel, so we actually have Mediterranean fare.
Yeah.
So our 3-meal is, first of all, it overlooks the park, right? So you can kind of sit out on the terrace in the park practically.
I mean, that aspect alone is pretty awesome, if I'm being quite honest.
And it is called Flora Taverna. So there's actually a lobby bar, and then the 3-meal restaurant as well. It'll have an amazing show kitchen, so you can kind of watch the chefs.
Ooh,
That's
yeah.
cool.
Okay, that's awesome.
That's really cool.
And we'll have, you know, meat on a spit.
I like that. Meat on a stick. I like that.
Just like, you know, true Greek food, and some, like, a really cool pizza oven for like flatbreads and pizzas and stuff like that.
Yum.
So it'll be good. I think there's like whole fish if you're into that.
Hey,
I'm not.
I'm down.
I'm not. Kathy
I'm down.
is. Yeah.
I'm down. I'll enjoy it and let you know how
I'll be
it
at the
is.
bar.
I think, but the biggest thing for me is the fact that you're not removed from the park when you're in this hotel. So this whole restaurant has this amazing view of the park, and you're right there, and you're right next to the waterfall at the back of Celestial.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know there was a waterfall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
That's really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
There's a waterfall? Are they just talking about they got to be talking about the little waterways, surely. I haven't seen anything in the construction videos that has an actual waterfall, but I don't know.
there's a terrace at the back of the lobby, so you can go out onto that terrace.
Yeah.
You don't actually have to go into the
Yeah.
park to be on that terrace looking out.
The planning is bananas.
Oh, it's incredible.
I
yeah.
can't even plan what I wear to each podcast, let alone
I
an
know.
entire park. That's crazy.
It's immersion. I feel like we talk about immersion literally on like every single podcast, but
Yeah.
it truly is. It's not only immersion into the park experiences, but also in the story within the actual resort, like immersion in the stars and the constellations and everything. So it's just truly every single detail is a part of that experience, it sounds like.
Yeah, there's a storyline that kind of runs through everything that we do. And look, being brutally honest, I think a lot of the times that story isn't as literal as, you know, I don't think the guests interpret it as literally as we might write it.
It's intentional, though.
Yeah,
I think that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
there's,
so,
but there's
so if you do
something-
figure it out, it's a little bit more special because it's
Right.
like I took the time to appreciate this
Right.
design and understand
and
this.
even
It's
if
cool.
even if you don't take that time, you'll appreciate the fact that everything seems to work together. And when if we didn't have that storyline, you would notice, well, that element doesn't seem to fit in for
Sure.
some reason.
Yeah.
I like the idea that the hotel has a story too, and this is something that's been. There were some leaks earlier this year where this was, I think it was probably the design firm that kind of helped on this, that had kind of released that. Which I think this is one place where, like, say the Star Wars Star Cruiser went wrong in terms of that hotel. Was way too expensive, but it forced you to be a part of a story. Whereas I think a hotel like this, where you can have this story aspect to it, if guests want to be more immersed and really get into that, they could, or it could just be a hotel that they just stay at because they want to go to the theme parks. So you're kind of leaving it up to the guest in terms of how much they want to be immersed into a story. But I do appreciate the fact that there is a story to it, and they put the time and effort into, not just making a hotel where you're just going to sleep, but it has, more elements to it beyond that.
So I think that's the biggest part of that storyline, is the fact that it is the thread that connects everything, and it pulls it all together.
Yeah. A little bit more on the subconscious level versus like literal right in your face. Like, hey, this place is amazing. I just can't explain why.
Yeah.
And it's all those details that you all talked about.
Well, how many times have you been in a restaurant or something and you had to look at the back of the menu and say, oh, that's what they're trying to do here, or
Right.
something like that, and you shouldn't have to do that.
Right. Up for interpretation too, for the guests to create their own story, almost kind of like in that space.
Yeah, there's something to that.
Yeah. Well, we have to close out by asking you both, what are your favorite parts of the hotel? What are you looking forward to experience just overall once it's completed? It's a tough one, isn't it?
Honestly, this is, I think, our biggest and best hotel yet. So just experiencing the whole thing in general is going to be exciting. I'm excited to go to the rooftop bar.
Yes. As am I.
Yeah. And I'm excited to stay in one of our guest rooms and just, it's going to be relaxing and tranquil, but also like so much activity out your back door. So you got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I'd say that, the suites in this property are very nice, but we spend so much time on the standard guest room, and I don't know that that everyone appreciates that when you're developing something like this, that's where your focus is, because you want to appeal to everyone that's staying at the hotel. So, just the standard guest rooms, just the level of detail that we've put into those, I think it's very, very comfortable, and to stay this close to a theme park, literally out the back door, and then have this respite that's tranquil and peaceful, and the colors, it's a real nice respite.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm most excited for. I want to set a stopwatch and see how fast I can get from the door to the park.
Yeah.
With a grab and go in the middle of that, because it's right by there, right?
We have Aurora Market right there. So again, items that you can just kind of grab, head out the door. We have coffee and gelato, and then we actually have wine on tap in the evenings if you come back and you want to grab something before you go up to your room.
That is genius.
Yeah.
I like that you said in the evening.
Yeah, okay. Anytime.
Or whenever you want, as long
Whenever.
as you're 21 and older.
Right.
Get your
Yeah,
day
valid
started.
ID. Yeah.
Thank you both so much. This is fantastic. I mean, we're still just geeking out, I feel like, over this, and cannot wait to see this hotel come together here soon. But thank you for all the hard work that you all have put into this along with your team. And thanks for joining us and sharing more about it.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Okay, that's the entire interview there. So, I mean, they didn't have a whole lot of new information. They did look like some new concept art on some of that stuff. I did like hearing them talk about the fountain show, or just some sort of nighttime show that's going to go on. So that's something, again, they haven't come out and said specifically what it's going to be, but we do know there's going to be some aspect to it. Now, in terms of the leaks that came out, there's another video we did months ago that talks about this, and a lot of the things in that leak were talking about how there's going to be a nighttime show, and that the Helios Grand Hotel is essentially going to function like, say, Magic Kingdom Cinderella's castle, and that it's going to have projections on it. It's going to be part of the show and really a live-in element, like a theme park or a live-in castle for the park. So unlike Cinderella's castle, where you can't stay there, I suppose, unless you're just an uber celebrity, you can stay in what is this park's castle of sorts. So I love the idea of this hotel. I still have a lot of questions about this hotel. Now, in another video as well, we talked about where it's there's stated, at least so far, that there's not going to be any express pass at Epic Universe, which I fully understand and completely, like, that doesn't surprise me one bit because it's a brand new theme park. I do have a question about, if you're staying at Helios, I'm assuming that Helios is going to be the most expensive hotel on property, given it's the biggest one. It seems like it's the fanciest. It's in a theme park. So obviously I would assume that it's going to be the most expensive. If you're staying here, are you also going to have Express Pass included at the existing parks, Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios? Because the other premier hotels like Hard Rock Hotel, Portofino Bay, and those other ones do include that. So if you have the most expensive hotel on property and you don't have Express Pass included, I have some issue with that. I suppose their thinking could be, if they're not going to offer that you have enough amenities here being part of Epic Universe and really being able to walk right out into the park or such, that could be a perk. But I do feel like that would be a bit of an issue for people that are looking to stay here, in terms of, like, if you're paying top dollar for a brand new theme park, or a brand new hotel, but you don't have the amenities that some of the other ones do. I feel like that one I don't really care for, if I'm being quite honest. I think that could be, now obviously we don't know, so I'm not really, I'm not going to say one way or the other right now, but if that is the case, I don't like that. But I do completely understand, again, not having Epic Universe have any Express Pass, given it's a brand new theme park, and usually with Universal, they don't have Express Pass for the most, the newest attractions, given that they're so much in demand. But obviously the rooftop bar here is something I want to check out. I'm very curious about. That seems like a giant perk and feature of this. I do wonder if, you're in the park, you're not staying at the Helios Grand Hotel. Are you going to be able to walk into the hotel to, like, walk around and see it, grab some food? Like, I don't know. Obviously, Universal's never done an in-park hotel. It's not an issue going to other hotels when they're in the park, or just in general on Universal property. They don't check to make sure you're staying there. So I would assume that they are not going to limit that. But it's hard to know, because they could run into an issue where there's obviously going to be a lot of people in the park. If too many people try and go into the hotel, it could overcrowd it. But at the same time, they could sell more drinks and food and things like that. But, I do have some more questions left about it. I think, again, I think the price of this is going to be very high. So I don't know, if in the short term, if we're going to be staying here anytime. I would love to, but I would like to check this out. And I do like the fact as well, it's an extension of Celestial Park, which I really appreciate as part of Epic Universe being a original thing. It's not an IP base. It's this, they thought this thing out from scratch, essentially. So I do like the idea that the hotel is an extension of that also. But other than that, they didn't release really any extra details. I do like hearing them talk about the details they've gone into working on this. And it does seem like all the aspects of Epic Universe have really been thought out, and they've gone to great lengths to try and provide a good guest experience, which I did like hear them talking about that again, about thinking of things through the guest eyes and what they would want. And I think it has a lot of potential to be obviously a very nice hotel. I mean, you're talking perhaps when it comes to theme park hotels, I mean, one of the top ones in terms of, like, being luxury, or however you want to put that, out of any of the theme parks in Orlando or anywhere else, really. But even though there wasn't a whole lot of new details, released in this, I do like seeing the, more information come out, because, again, they were releasing these almost weekly. They've had one about the Stardust Racers. They've had one about the Terra Luna and Stella Nova resorts. They had one about Celestial Park as well. So they were doing these almost weekly, and then everything kind of went to a stop for about a month now. So I do like seeing more of this come out. So perhaps maybe they put the, I guess you could call this the marketing arm of things. Perhaps they put that on hold, because if it is, the rumors are true that there is some sort of delay or some land is behind in construction, maybe they got that worked out. Maybe they figured out a timeline to opening. So it could have been a situation where they just said, hold off on promotion anymore until we figure out maybe the timeline to open the park up. So hopefully we start seeing a stream of more information come out. And again, I would assume we're going to see an opening date for Epic Universe be announced before the holidays. Because, again, I've said many times, but a lot of people plan trips when they go home for the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, for that following summer. So hopefully we hear something this month or next month in terms of an opening date. But I hope we do see more of these podcast episodes where they have people come on and talk about this stuff. It's a scripted podcast. It's not at least in terms of the podcast I typically listen to, it's not like that, but it's a company podcast. Like, it's going to be scripted, and sometimes it's a little corny, but they do have good information. I do like hearing from the people that have worked on stuff coming here and talk about it. I really like how Universal does this, how they've released the videos. They have these podcast episodes, which, again, the podcast episodes here, the general public's not really know about this. I think the other videos are definitely more marketing and they're flashy. They're shorter. This is for people obviously that are interested in Epic Universe already, which I am. Presumably you are as well watching this. So I do like the fact that they've been doing these, and just, if you want more information, they're going to give you a little bit more to kind of, obviously build up hype and things. But either way, that is going to be it though for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we do lots of coverage here of Epic Universe, Universal Studios, Disney World, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, what do you think? And how much do you think Helios is going to cost per night? I think it's going to be somewhere around $800, $900 if I were to guess, but could be even higher. I don't even know. So until next time, we will see you in the parks.